I think it's only right that we give you some background why we put this event on today. From my work and some of the work that I do with my team, we go into schools and we work with young people about the effects of violence, gang violence, street violence. This year alone, we worked with about 6,000 pupils in schools. So part of that program is inviting people along who know the road, who know the streets, not know fake gangsters, or not know wannabe gangsters, but people who have lived it, essentially. But we don't just do that for the sake of it either. What we've got today is, for some of you, is someone you may have grown up listening to, some of you who you know better than me. And today alone we've met young people who can quote this brother word for word in what he's done in his past. So it's important that we have a principle in the work I do, and it's called staying in the room. Staying in the room means that up here you stay in the room for the next hour or so, because what you hear today might save your life or someone else's life. Just out of interest, let me just throw a question out there. One of the young people. How many young people in Birmingham in recent years have died because of gun crime? Who said that? I'm going to shout it out. 27. 27 young men have died because of gun crime in Birmingham. So we're not here to talk about who or anyone or individuals or cliques or crews. We're here to talk about our young people, your and mine, are dying. So if you can imagine 27 people lined across here wall to wall, that's a lot of pain. That's a lot of families that have been destroyed. That's a lot of orphans. That's a lot of parents who've had to bury their children. So this is what this is about, and I don't want you to miss that point. How it's going to run is that Napoleon, inshallah, is going to speak for approximately 40-45 minutes. We're going to break, because the brother's fasting as well, so he needs to break his fast. And then we're going to come back for question and answers. Is that cool, yeah? So without further ado, inshallah, I'd like to welcome Napoleon. Assalamu alaikum.
Mic check. Assalamu alaikum. I'm not fasting because I'm extra righteous. I'm fasting because I got some days to make up from last Ramadan. Thanks a lot for coming. I appreciate you guys taking your time out. Verily, all praise is due to Allah. We seek His help. We seek His aid. We seek His forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil within our own souls. Whosoever Allah guides, there is no one to lead astray. Whosoever Allah leads astray, there is no one to guide upright. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship and truth except Allah alone. He has no partners, and all dominions is His. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His messenger and seal of all the prophets. First of all, I'd like to thank the brothers that invited me, the brothers that own the gym, to give me the opportunity to be here to speak to you guys. I'm basically here to give you guys a background on my life story and some of the trials that I went through in the street life. I know living out here in Birmingham, living in the UK, like the brother mentioned earlier, unfortunately you start to have murders. You're starting to see more gun crime in your cities. And I know how it is when you're in a certain age and you don't want to hear nobody telling you nothing. You might think, well, he's a little old school. He don't know what we're going through right now. Or he lived it back in the day when they didn't have no guns, etc., etc. But I'm just here to basically give you guys some insight of that lifestyle. Then it's up to you to make your own choice. None of us can force it for you guys. Basically, I was born in New Jersey. African-American father, Puerto Rican and Cuban mother. At the age of 3, I witnessed both of my parents get murdered in front of me. During the killing of my parents, I also got shot in the foot. I had a 6-month-old brother in the house, and I had a 4-year-old brother in the house at the time. The people that killed my parents was very close to my family, to the point in Western culture, you know how you have godparents, godfathers. These people were my so-called godfathers, and this was, of course, before I became a Muslim. So after the death of my parents, I was raised with my grandparents in a crowded house, to the point where it was about 7 of us, my brothers and cousins. It was 7 of us sharing one bedroom within this house. So we never liked to stay in the house, man. We always wanted to hit the streets. We always wanted to hang on the corner. This is how we had our fun back in the day. My brothers and my cousins at a very young age, they started to get into the cocaine trade. They started selling cocaine, and I remember my cousin, he would come in the house, he would have a shoebox, and he had money in the shoebox, drugs in the shoebox. He had 357. I remember he'd bring 3-finger rings. I don't know if you guys remember that. Most of you guys was in your diapers. But he used to have the 3-finger rings, gold chains, etc. And that lifestyle just looked appealing. And I remember at a very young age, I figured that I could try to follow my brothers and my cousins in their footsteps, and I decided to sell cocaine. So I went outside on the block. I had the cocaine wrapped in, we call it a clip, the vials, and the perfume bottles. And I was a youngster, could have been 9, 10 years old at the latest. And I was outside on the block, and I remember I was doing good until the police rolled up, and I ran in the store, and I remember I tried to hide my drugs. And so I walked out. I was arrogant because I figured the police didn't catch me, so I walked out with this arrogance, and I was talking back to the police. And basically, I put my hands against the wall before they told me to because I knew they wasn't going to find my stash. And the police, he put his hands in my pocket, and he came out with one of the vials. And he said, "You going to jail." I'm saying in my head, how did he get that? Myself, when I was going to hide the drugs, I actually, one of the bottles, it slipped out of my pocket, and I got caught. They locked me up, called my grandparents. They came, smacked me in the back of my head a few times. And after that, I told myself that I'm going to try to find another way to make some money. I said, maybe my brothers and my cousins, they might be good in this type of stuff, but I'm not the type of stuff that the first day I hit the block, I get my business get shut down. So I figured I'd try another way to make some type of money. So I turned to writing raps. Whatever I would see outside, I would go into my room and I would make a song out of it. So if I see drug dealers fighting or whatever, I would go make a song out of it, and I would come back and I would rap it for the drug dealers, and they would pay me money. And it got to the point where I started to take it very serious to the people in my neighborhood, the older cats from my block, the older drug dealers. They started to keep me out of trouble. When I tried to sell drugs again, they said, "You know what? You have a talent. We don't want you to go to jail, so you don't have to sell drugs. In fact, whatever you need, I will pay for it. If you want to go to the recording studio, I will put you in there. If you want to buy new sneakers or whatever." So I had no excuse to sell drugs. Like many of you guys out here, the council, if you want money, they will give you money. You need a place to stay, the council will give you a place to stay. So there's really no excuse to sell drugs even in here unless it's greed. So I told myself that I would take it serious, and I kept writing. I kept continuing to write, and I was doing house parties. I was going to clubs. I was very young at this time, but I started to make a name for myself on the streets. I had a childhood friend that I lost contact with by the name of Yafeyo, and I ran into his mother. And I asked his mother how was he doing because I didn't see him in years. And she said he moved out of New Jersey and he's trying to pursue a career in the music industry. And I told her I'm trying to do the same thing. She said, in fact, he lived with his brother by the name of Tupac Shakur. How many of you guys heard of Tupac Shakur? Okay, so most of you guys. So Tupac at this time, he was known in the hood because he was a guy that, in my neighborhood, we looked up to the people on the television that we felt was actually living what they was rapping about. At this time, Tupac was known because he just shot 2 off-duty police. I don't know if you guys remember that time when he shot the 2 off-duty police. He went to court, he had a trial, he beat the court case. So people in the ghettos and the neighborhood, they was loving Pac. Then he get caught doing some other crime and he's always on television. So I was very excited when she told me that Yafeyo and Tupac would be in New York City soon, and why don't you go visit them? So I was able to hop on the train. The metro was 30 minutes from my house to New York City. And I remember waiting in the room, and I was waiting for Pac. I was a young kid, about 13 years old. And I remember going through my head, is like, he's going to walk in this room, and I'm going to show him a while of a gangster I am. I'm going to show him how crazy I am. I know he's going to come in here. He's going to want to have a party. He's a wild individual. I saw him on television. I'm going to make a fool out of myself. We're going to have a good time. But when Pac came in the room, he took my plan off the road, off the course, because he was the opposite of what I expected. He came in the room, he was very humble, very soft-spoken, real polite, and I said, this cannot be the same guy that I see on television, that the media display as a gangster, etc. So Pac said, I heard that you witnessed your mother and father get murdered in front of you. I heard that you're trying to make it in the music industry. He said, I'm gonna help you out. My mind, at this time, I thought that he was just talking because I ran into many celebrities that made it out of the neighborhood. They come back and they say, I'm going to help you, and they never keep that word. Tupac actually kept his word. A few months later, I flew to Atlanta, Georgia, and this is when he decided to put a rap group together. And he said that he wanted me to be part of this rap group. And for example, he said that I want this rap group to be different than all other rap groups because at this time, most of the rappers, they wanted to be like Italian mafias, gangsters, etc. Tupac said that I want to be different than all these rap groups. I want you guys to have names of so-called enemies of the West, or so-called tyrants. So for example, Yafeyo, Tupac gave him the name Gaddafi after the Libyan president Muammar Gaddafi. Another member of the Outlaws, Tupac named him Hussein after Saddam Hussein. Another member he named Idi Amin, Castro after the Cuban president Fidel Castro. And you notice these names